there, fellow gamers, I'm that girl who games, and I'm here today to bring you a sort of two-part video. One part is a mini review, and one part is a mini rant, and you can see my cat back there, so she's nice, wandering around. I hope she doesn't make the camera go out of focus. Okay, so yesterday I picked up Portal 2 finally. In one of my recent videos, I talked about, I think it was my last video, I talked about how much I love the first Portal. I played it on Orange Box, and I hadn't been able to pick up Portal 2 yet, and I finally got it, and it's fantastic. The reviews that you may have heard are correct. The first few sections in the first player game are definitely just a rehash of the first game of Portal, but it's actually kind of cool to see them because they are meant to be the same rooms, just sort of affected by this apocalyptic event that has occurred, whatever it may be, if it's just affecting the factory or if it's affecting the whole world. It's unclear at this point, but it's pretty cool to go back through those rooms and feel that story continued. Furthermore, Stephen Merchant's performance is fantastic. He plays sort of this little helper robot that's helping you get out of the facility, and he's hilarious. It's very well written. I'm not going to say you're going to be rolling on the floor laughing, but it's just very witty and fun to listen to, and it just provides an extra layer of depth for the game that was perhaps lacking in the first one, because while you did have the GLaDOS commentary, it adds a little more feeling of character interaction and character depth. Also, I was able to play some two-player with my other half, my husband, and it's really, really nice. They're creative, cooperative puzzles that each player has to do genuinely unique things in them. I find like a lot of puzzle two-player sort of things is you do exactly the same thing in tandem, and you're both doing this thing, but this is a unique experience, and one player gets slingshotted to an area and you have to figure out what to do there. As far as I can tell, it sort of takes place before GLaDOS was destroyed, but possibly after. The story in the two-player is not as clear, nor do I think it's as important. It's more the cooperative experience and the cooperative puzzle solving that's fun. And of course, I'm kind of competitive, so I like to try and solve the puzzles first. But anyways, I highly recommend this. It is not one of those titles that comes out at $60, so it came out at, I think, $45, and the price is probably around $40 now. Most places you look for it if you're in North America. So I really recommend you try it out, even if you're not necessarily into puzzle games. It's very rewarding. It lets you feel good about solving these puzzles, and it really teaches you how to play the game. So if you haven't played the first Portal, which I don't know why you haven't played the first Portal, for shame, but you don't need to play the first Portal to play this Portal. You're not going to be lost. And my second part, after I give this stellar review to Portal, they do interesting things with the music as well, and the graphics are really, really nice. The Portal physics are cool as usual, and just the worn down facility looks great. But after that mini review, my rave review for Portal, I want to do my mini rant, and it was sort of triggered by Portal as I was listening to the witty commentary and the witty writing, and I was thinking about some of the announcements made at Tokyo Game Show, and this is something that's bothered me for a long time, and this is not something that anybody here is going to think. So I'm sort of preaching to the choir in a way with this rant, but I am really annoyed by people who think there should be an age limit on video games. And the reason Portal prompted me to think about this, because, well, kids could pick up Portal and play it, if they're good at puzzles and exceptional in that way. I'm sure they could do it, but the writing is not for kids in this game. Kids are not going to get the writing in this game. They're just not. And I think that that's almost universally true for today's games. I know there are games like Mario Galaxy or Super Mario Bros. Wii or Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess and stuff that have an appeal to younger audiences. They're not excessively violent, or there's not an excessive amount of sexual content, and there's nothing wrong with younger audiences playing them. But I still think at the same time, even those games are games that are being put out and targeted at adults who played Zelda and Mario when they were young. And a lot of the games that come out that are sort of kid-friendly are still targeted primarily at adults. And particularly a lot of the best-selling games and a lot of the big games In fact, I think all of the big games that come out now are targeted at adults. They're not games for kids. And yet there's this persistent perception that games are a toy and all games are created for kids, and therefore adults are ridiculous if they're playing games and they, all are living in their parents' basement and they're not functional members of society and they're terrible, terrible people. Not that you're terrible if you live in your mom's basement, but you know what I mean. That's just that idea of that super nerd who can't connect with other people and can't connect with society because they're trapped in a fantasy world. And I just think that's wrong. I mean, the gaming industry has surpassed the film industry. It makes more money. And quite frankly, to me, saying that there's an age limit for games is saying there's an age limit for movies, or there's an age limit for books, because they're all different kinds of books, they're all different kinds of games, and they're all different kinds of movies. And people need to recognize that and get off their high horse, and this, to me, particularly happens a lot in mainstream media news. I think of games that are pinged in the news for being too scandalous or having too much adult content because they don't want adult content in game. Well, guess what? These are games for adults. If you start going on about how movies have too much adult content, people are going to call you ridiculous and say it's a reflection of real life and that's what they're trying to produce and it's part of the art and part of the media. And you can't say that you have to limit it so that it's friendly to all viewers. And games are exactly the same way. And I think that this image that there's an age limit for games is just being perpetuated by lazy people who don't know anything about the hobby. It's the same thing like if, a kid in school says math is stupid because they don't understand math. These are people who are saying games are stupid because they don't understand games and they haven't been able to move beyond that idea that games are simple, little pixelated devices that are aimed at children and that, the Nintendo's sold in a toy store, so obviously it's a toy. I bought Portal 2 at Toys R Us. That doesn't mean that it was for kids. There's a whole section at Toys R Us that's high up. I like Toys R Us. But it says mature, and those are games that are not for kids. And parents need to understand that. People in general need to understand that and stop thinking that every game is appropriate for a kid. It's the same thing the comic industry suffers from, that every comic book must be appropriate for a kid just because it's a comic book. You can't write off an entire media based on either its past or your perception of it. And that's my mini rant that's brought about by the great wit and sophisticated humor, as it were, sort of Portal 2. But anyways, play Portal 2, and love games until you're old. My dad is 56 and he just bought a PlayStation 3, so obviously he doesn't think he's too old for them, and if he had ever thought he was too old for games, I wouldn't be here now making these videos because he wouldn't have been teaching me my love of gaming. So enjoy games until you're old, and enjoy Portal 2 specifically. I'm hoping to put up another video this week because I was sort of delinquent and didn't really get one up last week. It was a very busy and weird week. But anyways, that is all for now. Thank you guys for listening, and let me know your thoughts on the issue of being too old to game, because I know it's something that can sometimes make us self-conscious, and I really don't think it should. Okay, that's all. Have a great week.